Good day, everyone. With Dawntrail almost a month away, we certainly have a lot to look forward to very soon. However, ever since the expansion's announcement back at the Las Vegas Fan Festival, there's been something on my mind. Something that I planned on discussing today. And that, of course, is the reveal of Valigarmanda. If this topic or topics like it interest you, please don't forget to subscribe, as your support is what helps to keep this channel going. So, gather around, my friends, as today we'll discuss the powers and history of this majestic creature, and theorize as to its possible use within the upcoming expansion that'll be setting the groundwork for a brand new story within this MMO. So, the question many players unfamiliar with the name might ask is, who or what is Valigarmanda? At first glance, it seems to simply be a massive feathered serpent with heavy inspiration from the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl. And while that wouldn't be a bad guess, the presence of Valigarmanda in Final Fantasy XIV is actually a reference to another Final Fantasy game, namely Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI is the first game in the franchise that Valigarmanda was revealed in. In fact, they were the entity that essentially began the chain of events that resulted in the story as you, the player, would observe. However, they also went by a different name. The original English translation called them Tritoch, so it's important to understand that Tritoch is Valigarmanda, two different names for the same creature. Within Final Fantasy VI, Valigarmanda was a magical entity called an Esper, which was essentially that game's take on summon spirits. But when you meet them for the first time, you discover that they're trapped within a cage of ice. However, despite their frozen prison, Valigarmanda's power still resonates with the protagonist Terra, thus beginning the story. So even without knowing much, Valigarmanda has quite the pedigree, being the first major plot point of a mainline Final Fantasy title. Though despite their important role in the story, they only make a few appearances in-game, and each of them are rather brief. But later on, there's a point that you can actually gain the chance to fight them. Or, well, you get the chance to fight their wild powers while in a frozen state. Winning actually frees Valigarmanda, allowing them to speak for the first time. Here is their response. You humans freed me from that prison of ice? You possess magicite? Who are you? I sense war and destruction. Could that stupid war possibly have lasted 1,000 years? I can tell that you want to put a stop to the madness. Let's see if you are worthy. While the exchange is brief, we can guess a lot about their personality. The war that Valigarmanda is referring to is the War of the Magi. Yes, Final Fantasy VI has a War of the Magi. In this war, the godlike entities known as the Warring Triad did battle with one another, using Espers to fight for them. We can guess that Valigarmanda was sealed away in ice during that war, hence why they're so confused when released, not realizing that the war ended 1,000 years ago. However, despite the confusion, they could sense the party's intent and was eager to see the chaos stopped, immediately offering their help to the player, suggesting that despite being a powerful entity, Valigarmanda was empathetic, believing in reason and order over things like chaos and selfishness. Fun fact, the spells you can get from them are Firaga, Blizzaga, and Thundaga, with their special summon attack being Tri-Disaster, which is infinitely more dangerous in Final Fantasy VI than it is in Final Fantasy XIV. Sorry, summoners. Ever since then, Valigarmanda has made a few appearances in other Final Fantasy games, but never really had a major role like the other well-known summon spirits within the franchise. But now that you know their origins and history, that begs the question. What role are they going to serve within Dawntrail? And more importantly, what are they? Final Fantasy XIV has never been shy about taking inspiration from other games within the Final Fantasy franchise, and doing whatever they desire with that lore. So despite me telling you their history, it's possible that 14's version of Valigarmanda is absolutely nothing like their depiction in Final Fantasy VI. But thankfully, we do have a bit of data to play with. I quote, "Turali folklore holds that this bird-like creature is the mightiest of beasts and the very embodiment of nature's power. Whether it exists beyond myth, however, is uncertain." So at first glance, I believe most people would guess that Valigarmanda is simply going to be another primal, something that's summoned to oppose us and needs to be fought. Remember, even if a primal isn't trying to temper people, it's still dangerous, because their very existence acts as a drain on natural ether. Thus, they cannot be allowed to exist indefinitely. However, I feel this would be a disservice to Valigarmanda. To simply appear as a primal fight only to be beaten and forgotten about feels a bit too easy. Especially with how long they've waited to play a major role in a Final Fantasy title again. So my friends, why don't we go beyond our basic assumptions and use our understanding of Final Fantasy XIV lore to theorize what other forms and roles Valigarmanda might fill within the story of Dawntrail. First, we'll begin with another type of powerful magical entity that goes beyond the summoning of a primal. Note that Turali folklore designated Valigarmanda as a bird-like creature. What if we took that term literally? What if, instead of a primal, they were an auspice? Indeed, the auspice have been one of the more interesting additions to Final Fantasy XIV lore over the years, having been introduced during the campaign of Stormblood. Simply put, an auspice is an animal that lives mysteriously beyond its natural lifespan, gaining tremendous power and wisdom as they become more than just a mindless beast. This would certainly explain Valigarmanda's ability to fade into myth, as an auspice has the power to morph their body into a variety of different forms, allowing them to blend in and disappear with ease despite their normally massive size and colossal power. For example, while the foe commander may look like a small, unamused fox in Idyllshire, they're still an auspice, meaning that this isn't their true empowered form. Personally, I'd be overjoyed to learn that Valigarmanda is an auspice, as I always found that part of Final Fantasy XIV lore to be equally mysterious, yet interesting. If they are an auspice, perhaps they've been using their newfound powers to act as a sort of guardian of nature or order within the lands of Tudal. It is pure speculation, of course, but food for thought. Next comes a more unlikely outcome, but one I wish to discuss for lore's sake all the same, because many people have suggested that Valigarmanda is a dragon. The natural lifespan of dragons within Final Fantasy XIV is odd, to say the least. They mature extremely slowly, and even when they do grow up, it's more of a metamorphosis. In fact, they can go through this drastic change more than once in their lifetime, becoming larger and more unique with every evolution. This is why many dragons will look completely different from one another despite being the same age and from the same brood. So far, the dragons seem to have a noticeable presence on all the major continents, except for Tudal. It could be the case that Valigarmanda is a dragon that has been left to learn, grow, and evolve on its own for thousands of years, resulting in its current form. That may seem like a stretch, but it's certainly within the realms of possibility. After all, Res Velgar evolved to gain fur and feathers instead of just being hide and scales. And just because a dragon isn't of the first brood doesn't mean that they can't eventually become incredibly strong. Remember, it took dozens of people and multiple dragon-killing war machines just to stop Vishap. In fact, it technically took more materials and people to stop Vishap than Nidhogg. But I digress, that's a technicality. Nidhogg was still the stronger of the two, by far. But all of that is to say that a dragon not of the first brood growing to immense size with a very distinct appearance isn't entirely impossible. So while even I would agree that them being a dragon isn't likely, it's still technically a possibility. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the existence of things created by godlike entities. Throughout the story of Final Fantasy XIV, we've seen a wide variety of powerful things created by powerful people. The ancients seeded the world with life in ages past. The Elder Primal, Eorzea, was capable of creating other equally powerful primals like Odin, and even Hydaelyn has used her colossal power to create extremely potent entities that would watch over the world alongside her. With all these examples, it's entirely possible that Valigarmanda is the creation of someone or something. Perhaps they were created millennia ago to act as Tural's overseer, and only emerging when absolutely necessary. In fact, with the reveal of Solution 9, I can easily see Valigarmanda acting in opposition of such a thing, seeing as they're supposed to be the embodiment of nature's power. It's not hard to picture the most powerful thing in nature contending with the most powerful technology. After all, the rivalry between natural order and advanced machinery is a very common writing trope. If Valigarmanda was created by someone for a specific purpose, then we may very well see them awaken in opposition of something else. But as stated earlier, this is all conjecture, my friends. Fun theories to tease our minds as we wait for Dawntrail's release. And since you've been kind enough to listen this long, it's only fair that I offer you the same kindness. Tell me, my friends, what purpose do you think Valigarmanda will serve within Dawntrail? Will it simply be another forgotten primal that we slay and abandon? Or will their presence have a deeper meaning? Will we find them trapped in a cage of ice like in Final Fantasy VI? Or will they already be flying around through the skies of Tural, wild and free as the embodiment of nature? Be sure to let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing your thoughts. And as always, until next we meet, stay safe, my friends. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. It's a simple button click for you, but I appreciate it more than you know. And as always, I'd like to thank my patrons currently on screen. Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Nanama, Naraya O'Meara, Potato, Sinalv Bagel, Cizani, and Travanche. If interested, you'll find links to my Discord, Twitter, and more down in the description. But above all else, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Class dismissed.